With college basketball tournaments starting today, February 28th, we're going to start learning who the automatic bids are for this big dance. And as always, with March, always brings madness. I'm not going to waste any time on this one. I'm going to go through and predict the winners of each conference tournament, see who I think will get the automatic bids for March Madness. So, I'm not going to waste any time on it. Let's get right into it. Editor's note, this took a really long time to research and film, so please subscribe. I'm going to do my best to cover March Madness throughout as possible, so thank you. First off, the Atlantic 10. Now, I could go super biased on this, but I'm going to do my best to restrict myself. The Atlantic 10 is another top-heavy conference with VCU in first, Dayton, Fordham, St. Louis all being tied for second at 11 and 5. VCU are the favorites for this conference tournament, with Dayton a very close second. But you know what I'm going to say to this? Screw the whole thing I said in the beginning. Fordham's winning this entire thing. Led by arguably the best name in sports, Darius Quisenberry. Top tier name. And transfer Khalid Moore from Georgia Tech. The defense on this team has been unbelievable. Khalid Moore, who was a top defender in the ACC the past few years, transferring over to Fordham on an already great team defense. Their offense does tend to stall, but for me, it's always hard to root against Khalid Moore. So I'm glad to see he's been super successful at Fordham. So I have Fordham winning the Atlantic 10 this year. Second is the ACC. This conference has not been easy to predict since the season really began. North Carolina was the consensus top pick to finish first in the conference before the season, coming off a national championship appearance and returning 4 of the 5 starters from that national championship game. But they are just sitting outside of the tournament as it stands. Duke was projected to finish second with a brand new coach, and they are 5th in the conference right now. And the previous conference tournament winner, Virginia Tech, is near the bottoms of the rankings going into the tournament. The regular season conference winner will be decided tomorrow as Pitt, yes, Pittsburgh, faces off against Miami in a battle of 1 versus 2. Pitt has gotten hot at the right time, winning 10 of their last 12. Granted, a lot of those games have been at home, so who knows what team they are come tournament time. Virginia is also a very experienced team, led by guard Kihei Clark, who does have national championship game experience, and are sitting 3rd in the standings. Duke currently sits 1 game outside of that top 4 double bye for the conference tournament, and UNC is currently sitting in 6th in the ACC. My dark horse team for the conference tournament in the ACC has to be NC State. They're led by 2 great offensive guards in Terquavion Smith and Jarkel Joyner. They're very explosive, and they also have a very sound big man in DJ Burns. If I had to project any team to win it, though, it'd have to be Miami. Miami is returning a great squad from last year. Super experienced with Isaiah Wong and their sophomore center, Norchad Omier. Nigel Pack has also been a great second option, and the depth of this team is one of its biggest strengths. Never count out Josh Pastner, though. Who am I kidding? We're lucky if we win 1 game. The ASUN. Now, I can be a very good hometown kid, and I'm going to be, and I'm just going to pick the first place in the entire conference, Kennesaw State. Conference is really a 2-man race between Kennesaw State and Liberty, with Liberty being the favorite, but Liberty struggled away from home this year, while KSU was 11-7 in away and neutral site games. Not a whole lot I've truly seen from this conference. I've seen 1 or 2 games from Kennesaw State maybe, but I'm just going to keep it short and sweet, picking the Owls. The American East. March Madness legend Doug Eddert is in this conference now for the Bryant Bulldogs. So if you're a neutral fan of any of these teams, then hey, go root for them. But this conference is also a 2-man race with 1 team truly above the rest. I think Vermont is a much better coached team than UMass Lowell, but they did split the season series. Riverhawks from Massachusetts have been unbeatable at home, but they won't be in Massachusetts. So I'm going with the Catamounts from Vermont. The American. I think this one's pretty cut and dry. Houston runs the conference this year and are number 1 in the country for a reason. Absolutely phenomenal team defense and a weaker conference compared to the most top teams leaves this pick one of the easiest for the entire video. It's crazy that second place Memphis is my dark horse for this conference. The Big 12. This conference is one of the weirdest top to bottom. The top 5 teams are all ranked in Kansas, Texas, Baylor, Kansas State, and TCU. Kansas State has proven to be a tough matchup for Kansas this year, led by Keontae Johnson. Baylor has one of the best backcourts in the country. Texas are led by a very good Marcus Carr, who's a phenomenal 3-point shooter. And TCU has very good guard play. And what is it with TCU being good at sports this year? For me, I really like Kansas State as a pick here, but it's just not a logical pick. But who cares about logical picks? It's March. But KSU are for sure my dark horse in the Big 12, while Baylor are my favorites to win it. Keontae George is one of the most exciting players to watch in the country. With a backcourt of Adam Flagler and LJ Cryer, it's going to be really, really hard to stop this team come tournament time. So I think they upset Kansas for this. The Big East. Probably hands down the most exciting conference in all of college basketball. Marquette, Xavier, Providence, UConn, Creighton, Villanova, Seton Hall, all 500 or above in the conference. This conference is absolutely fantastic, but probably the hardest to predict. The obvious favorites are UConn, but they haven't looked great as of recently. So it's really hard for me to stick with that. Xavier have also been a really solid team this year, led by Suli Boom. I'm really sorry if I mispronounced that name. As well as having 5 guys who are averaging double digits in scoring. But my pick is Creighton. They've finally shown the promise they were supposed to have from the start of the season. And what a better time to show it than right now. They also have 5 guys averaging double digits, but it's a much shorter rotation than that of Xavier. However, I believe their guards in Ryan Nembhard, Baylor Shireman, and Trey Alexander can carry this team to a Big East title. My dark horse is Providence, as they were one of the top 4 in the conference. The only thing that terrifies me is that they were 15-0 at home and absolutely awful on the road. So this away site and neutral site could be really bad for them. The Big Sky. Not a conference I really watched a whole lot or have a lot of info on. But Eastern Washington were awesome to watch versus Kansas last year, and their coaching is phenomenal. So even though it's a slightly different team than that of last year, I'm still going to pick them. I'm sorry for not a great explanation. The Big South. There's one team that is far above and beyond this conference. UNC Asheville. Led by Drew Pember, who averages 20 on 47% from the field. This team is hard to play against. They also finished the season as hot as you possibly could, winning 15 of their last 16 games. That's just absurd. Absolutely absurd. They are going to run through this conference tournament in my eyes. The Big Ten has been one of the most complete and competitive conferences from top to near bottom. As 12 of the 14 teams have 8 conference wins or more, only 1.5 games separates 9th place Michigan State and 2nd place Maryland. The top of the conference has shown quite the weakness as of late, with Purdue starting to The top of the conference has shown quite the weakness as of late, with Purdue starting to tumble from the mighty pedestal they were once on. Indiana is led by Trace Jackson Davis, an elite scorer and a phenomenal rebounder, as well as freshman guard Jalen Hood-Schifino, who has had a phenomenal season. Northwestern has also snuck into the top 4 of the conference, led by senior guards Boo Buie, might be my favorite name in all of college basketball, after Darius Quisenberry, but besides the point, and Chase Odigay. Sorry if I mispronounced that name. If I had to pick a dark horse for it, not biased and unbiased, it'd have to be Michigan State. Tom Izzo always does a phenomenal job in March. This team has a lot of depth and has kept up with some of the best in the country. They've had 1-point losses to Purdue and Gonzaga, wins over at the time number 4 Kentucky, number 18 Wisconsin on the road, number 23 Rutgers, and number 17 Indiana. But with losses such as Notre Dame by 18, and as of recently, a blown 13-point lead with a minute 30 left to Iowa, makes this team super, super spotty. But I still think they're the dark horse. My overall conference winner is Indiana due to Purdue's lack of consistency and looking absolutely atrocious as of late. I absolutely love watching Indiana and the 2 powerhouse players of Jackson Davis and Hood-Schifino make this team deadly come tournament time. The Big West. Conference is kind of a mess. UC Irvine, UC Riverside, UC Santa Barbara are all tied for first, while Cal State, UC Davis, Long Beach State, and Hawaii, hey, a school not from California, are just super close behind in the standings. I don't know much about this conference, but UC Riverside has a very solid record against the top teams in this conference, so I'm just going to go with Riverside. But I kind of want to go with Hawaii, simply for the fact that they aren't from California. So, go not California. Conference USA. This conference is super top-heavy, that's for sure, with FAU at 16-2, North Texas at 14-4, and UAB at 13-6. Middle Tennessee State is always a dark horse in March, especially after their 15-seed upset against Michigan State in the middle 2010s. The Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky have my favorite player in the conference, Jamarian Sharp. He's 7'5", averages 4.5 blocks a game. So that instantly makes them a dark horse for me, but he doesn't nearly get the volume enough for this team to succeed. So I'm just going to go with UAB for no other reason than the root for the underdog. I don't want FAU winning that. The CAA. This conference is a 2-man race. Charleston and Hofstra. Both are 16-2, and Hofstra has the tiebreaker over Charleston with a 4-point win. I still pick Charleston to win this. after their success with a much tougher strength of schedule to begin the season and finish the season strong. They also run an 8-man rotation, super deep, and all contribute very well. It's a very deep team, very good team. This team, come the actual NCAA tournament, can make noise. The Horizon. This conference has 9 competitive teams out of the 11 in the conference, and the leading scorer in the entire country on Detroit Mercy. But only one team stands out for me, Youngstown State. They have a very solid rotation and a great scorer in Dwayne Cohill, who's averaging almost 18 on 50, 46, 86 shooting splits, as well as 2 great rebounders in Malik Green and Adrian Nelson. While Milwaukee's turnaround from last year is incredible, I think the Penguins have more experience. Just an amazing mascot. The Penguins, bro? The Ivy League. This conference every year is a 3-man race. Princeton, Yale, Harvard. And Harvard isn't in the running this year. My pick is Yale. Great team basketball, super efficient scorers, one of the best free throw shooters in the entire country in August Mahoney, who's shooting 95.7% from the free throw line. So that's going to come down when it comes down to a close game. That's going to be the guy you want to go. The MAAC. Another one-man race for this conference. It's Iona. Fantastic scorer in Walter Clayton. Efficient big man Nelly Jr. Joseph, who's averaging almost a double-double. Haven't watched a whole ton of this conference, but numbers don't lie. An efficient scoring team with a good big man, that's really hard to beat. The MAC. The MAC has been a super, super fun conference to watch this season. When I've turned it on, my favorite team for this conference has to be Kent State. They only have 6 losses on the season, 3 of them being Charleston, Houston by 5 on the road, Gonzaga on the road by 7. They also beat first place Toledo earlier in the season by 12, and Sincere Carey has been an absolute beast on this team. For the rest of the conference, Imani Bates is also in it. He has the potential to drop 40 every game, so I guess you can watch out for that. But my official prediction is Kent State for the MAC. MEAC. The favorites to win this conference are Howard as the 1 seed, but I actually like Norfolk State, who have a 9-7 neutral away site record and the best overall record in the conference. I think I said that name? Okay. They have great scoring from Joe Bryant and an efficient big man in Chris Bankston, who's shooting almost 70% from the field this season. Gotta pick Norfolk State. The Missouri Valley Conference. I could either play this smart or play it wild. For one of the only times you'll see in this, I think I'm gonna play it smart. I think Drake wins the Missouri Valley. Best record away from home in the Missouri Valley, winning 13 of their last 15. Their only challenge is Bradley, but Bradley is awful away from home. Tucker DeVries for Drake averages 19 a game on 45, 38, 85 splits, and they have a super deep rotation, which comes so handy come tournament time. The Mountain West. I can only pick one team with confidence in the Mountain West, and that's San Diego State. They almost always dominate the conference. They don't score a whole ton, and anyone on their team can go off at any moment, but their defense is super, super sound and efficient. They finished their season strong coming into tournament time, winning 19 of their last 22 games. Teams to watch out for in this conference, Boise State and Nevada. They could make some noise come this tournament, but San Diego takes the Mountain West. The NEC. I can tell you one thing about this conference. Long Island aren't winning this conference. I really don't know a whole lot about it, and not a whole lot truly stands out, but I'll take Merrimack, the 1 seed, to win it. Sorry, Farley fans. Better luck next year. The Ohio Valley. I really don't think this conference is close at all. I think Morehead State just runs away with it. Best record in the conference, along with the best road record in the conference, and it's not even close. I think 4th place Tennessee State has a chance to make some noise as a dark horse, possible dark horse, but I think Morehead takes it. The Pac-12. The Pac-12 have some very exciting teams in the so-called Conference of Champions, with 2 teams standing out above the rest, UCLA and Arizona. Arizona are going to be a team that stands out, of course, due to their high-scoring offense. However, they fall into the 40s in terms of defensive efficiency and tend to fall off when they have an off-shooting night. This was the case last year. They played in close games come tournament time because their offense was not as efficient as their defense, and when they had an off night, it was over. I think the most complete team in this conference is UCLA by a long shot. With the tournament experience of Tiger Campbell and Jamie Hawkes Jr., as well as the coaching of Mike Cronin, I think this team is the team to fear in the Pac-12. My dark horse would be Arizona State. They just recently beat Arizona, and yes, it was on a buzzer beater, but they played well against Arizona, and they have a phenomenal away neutral site record. But UCLA takes it. Possible dark horse, Arizona State. The Patriot League. The Patriot League has one team quite far ahead of the pack, and that's Colgate. Boasting a 17-1 conference record going into the tournament, I think this is just one they run away with. They usually win this conference, and I think this is a tournament that could be super exciting. Watch as 4 games separate second place from ninth place in this conference, but Colgate is far and above the best team. So they just go to another NCAA tournament. The SEC. This conference is super, super, super top heavy, with Alabama, Texas A&M, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Missouri with all good chances of winning the conference tournament, and realistically all having tournament spots already locked up. Arkansas was a team to watch early on in the season, but have fallen off as of late. And Vanderbilt and Auburn are just way too odd and inconsistent for me to pick. I have to go with Bama to win the SEC. This team can score at will and also have a very good defensive identity. If their offense goes to sleep for a game, they could just make up for it on the defensive end. Missouri is my dark horse for the conference, with Kobe Brown and Demoy Hodge averaging a combined 30 points per game and both being great defenders, and Brown being a phenomenal rebounder. The SWAC. The SWAC is going to be an interesting conference tournament, that's for sure. The 2 favorites are Alcorn State and Grambling State. These 2 met earlier in the season, and Alcorn won at Grambling in a close contest. Well, these 2 met for once earlier in the season, and Alcorn State beat Grambling in a very close contest. It's Grambling's only home loss of the season. However, Grambling have a much better away neutral site record than Alcorn, having an 11-7 away from home to Alcorn's 8-10. And they have a better overall home record. My official pick for the conference is Grambling State, but it'll be a fun game, that's for sure. The Southern Conference. There's a lot of teams I actually really, really like in this conference. Furman, Sanford, UNC Greensboro, Western Carolina, Wofford. But Furman are a very well-coached team and scored the ball super, super, super efficiently, shooting almost 50% as a team. And their starters are all great free throw shooters, which is going to be huge come down to close games. Southland. Everything I have seen says Texas A&M Corpus Christi is the favorites, and it's truly hard to go against it. They finished the season winning 9 of their last 10 games to end the season. While they do play the one team that they lost to in that span in the first game of the conference tournament, I believe they take the conference and start it off with their revenge. The Summit. This is another one of the few cut and dry picks that I have. Oral Roberts led by NCAA tournament legend Max Abmas, are 18-0 in conference play, 5 games above second place. Another instance of where second place South Dakota are a dark horse for this conference. The Sun Belt. This conference is the definition of wide open. Southern Miss, first place, just recently lost to South Alabama, 9th place, by 31. Third place Marshall were almost swept by 8 seed Georgia Southern in the season series. Really came down to 1 point. South Alabama has picked up steam at the perfect time, only dropping 2 of their last 10 games to end the season. I think this conference embodies the meaning of March Madness. South Alabama are my pick to win the conference, but my sleeper team is one of my favorites in the entire Sun Belt. Georgia Southern, led by Andrei Savrasov and Jalen Finch, have the potential to win this entire conference and make the tournament. They have started to play much better as of late and play well against the top teams in this conference. Why won't the top teams win the conference? Play style. Marshall runs a super short rotation, which almost never does well come March. And Louisiana and Southern Miss have been super inconsistent and are very much on upset alert. Watch out for Georgia Southern. The WAC. This conference has had quite a bit of ups and downs, with New Mexico State canceling their season, but I'm taking Sam Houston State. They still have 2 games remaining and have been such a hot streak. It's really hard to argue against them for the tournament. Great defensive team and are great in close games with just 1 loss in a game that's decided by under 5 points. And last but not least, the West Coast Conference. It's usually pretty cut and dry. Gonzaga usually rolls. This year's a little different. St. Mary's is one of the few teams in the conference that competes with Gonzaga year in and year out, and they're tied for first. This team split the season series, taking each of their respective home games, but I think Gonzaga, with Drew Timme and Julian Strother, takes it, so they will be my official pick. But watch out for St. Mary's this March. Thank you for watching to the end of this. I know it's a lot, and I'm going to be trying to covering more March Madness as March Madness goes on, covering each conference tournament and the result. Please like, subscribe. I'm going to be trying to be more consistent. I know I've said that. I'm trying to be. Leave a like. Thanks.